Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the La Project with me, your host Han Rayani, and my co-host
BJ, what's up?
What's up, guys? Thank you for joining us this week. We're just gonna get straight into it, lah, Jay.
Yeah.
So
Got lots to cover today, eh?
Yeah, lots to cover today. Like last week, we didn't get to cover actually a lot of news that happened
During our hiatus, yeah.
during our hiatus.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
some of the things that we didn't cover was just a day before the transition of power from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. Joe Biden literally pardoned so many people from his family. Do you know about this?
I do know, and I think you have the timeline just a bit wrong.
Oh, okay.
He actually pardoned his family members, the 10 family members, who all have the last name Biden,
Yeah.
or married to someone with the last name Biden. Basically during the inauguration.
During the inauguration.
Yeah, like it was within 30 minutes before Trump was sworn in.
Wow.
Yeah,
So that
it was
includes
like literally a last ditch out the door kind of thing.
no, because that included Hunter Biden, right?
No, Hunter Biden was the first pardon that he announced. That was, I think, 2 weeks after Trump won the election.
Right.
That was when Hunter's was announced. The 10 people that I'm referring to is everyone except for his wife.
Except for his wife.
His two brothers, the most prominent being Jim Biden, who is also, after Hunter, is apparently the next person that has the biggest involvement in the Biden corruption scandal
Right.
thing. Yeah.
So what was the whole?
So all of them were given retroactive pardons,
Yeah.
which, if you ask me, is pretty ridiculous.
So basically, the pardon is this thing where
None of them are charged with anything.
Yes, none
Yeah.
of them can be charged.
None of
with
them
anything.
have been charged with anything prior to the pardons. Of course, I'm referring to. None
Yeah.
of them were ever charged with anything except for Hunter. Hunter but he wasn't being charged with any corruption charges. He was being investigated for corruption, not being charged yet. But he had already been charged for illegal owning of a gun, possession
Right.
of a gun, and illegal possession of drugs, of course.
Right.
Yeah. So he was charged for both, and of course, under the retroactive pardon that his father Joe gave him, which was a 10-year long pardon, covering from December 1st, 2014, all the way until it was either December 1st, 2014 or November 1st, 2014, all the way until the day Joe Biden leaves office,
Right.
which was like, I think was supposed to be December 31st, 2024, something like that. So, and any and all crimes that were allegedly committed within that time, all
It's
cannot be charged.
It's being slated
Federally
off.
cannot be charged. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would that mean? Like, for example, like I know there's this case about Hunter Biden and his laptop.
Yeah.
You know about this?
So yeah, the laptop is under FBI custody. It
Okay.
has been since before the 2020 election.
What have they found in the laptop?
A lot of things, but the thing is, the FBI under the Joe Biden administration did not want to release the findings of
Right.
the laptop. So most of it is regarding their dealings with the Ukrainian energy company called Burisma.
Okay.
Yeah, they are basically, if to simplify it for a Malaysian audience, to think of it in the most simple terms, it's Burisma to Ukraine is what Petronas is to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they are the Ukrainians' oil explorers and exporters. And I don't know if you know this, but Ukraine, before the Russian war, the war with Russia, the Russian invasion, if you want to call it, Ukraine was the breadbasket of Europe. So they were the farmers, they were the crop growers, they were also the basically they provided, I think, close to 40% of the meat, the meat and poultry of Europe.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's why, like, a lot of people don't understand that, but that's why the whole Ukraine-Russia war is such a big deal. Because everything after Ukraine got invaded by Russia, all prices came up. Everything came up, right?
Right.
All prices, even basic goods, eggs, whatever, all went up. Bread, everything went up. So, and it was because of that. Because they had to focus all of their human resource onto fighting the war and not, being farmers anymore. Yeah.
But yeah, so Biden did like pardon a lot of his family members, but so did Trump. I mean, Trump didn't pardon his family members, but
No,
he pardoned the
Jared Kushner's father.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
But what I found
And
out
then
was
made him ambassador to France. There's a G, man.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Trump is basically just hiring like his family members in the cabinet, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, okay, true. But why I don't have as much of a problem with that is because he's been doing that his whole life. The Trump organization is all his family. All his kids, is his daughter, is Jared, is all his family. Even his granddaughters starting to get into the family business, So I don't have a problem with that. I think he feels that his kids, number one, he trusts them more than he can be able to trust anyone else. That's one. But the other thing is that also to give them credit, Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric, even Laura, Eric's wife, all these people have proven that they are shrewd operators as well. At least, if not only in business, also in the political scene. So is, I guess, especially in a second go round, especially when you feel like you should have won the second time round, and then you came back and you won the third time round. So I guess you feel like you need people that are lockstep with you and not going, or at least have the least possibility of backstabbing you in the future.
Yeah. So that's why he opts for like family members
around,
and close friends and stuff like that.
But Joe, that's not the case. Like his cabinet, none of his family. And he's giving his family members like bull appointments. Like he's giving like Hunter, for example. When he was vice president, he got how Hunter became a director of Burisma in 2014 was because the US and Joe Biden himself at the time, there's actually a clip recording of this. I will send this over to the producers. But he himself, Joe Biden, during it was an economic conference. I just watched this yesterday. I'll pull up the video and send. But he was bragging about how there was a prosecutor in the Ukraine who was investigating Burisma for corruption dealings.
I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they did.
And he, at the time, the US, was supposed to give Ukraine $1 billion in aid. This was way before the war. This was like, I would say this was 20, in the lead up to 2014. So this was like 2013. Like early mid 2013, and it was finally finalized at the end of 2014, when Hunter Biden got his director seat on the board of Burisma. And if I'm not mistaken, what Joe Biden did was he went to the president of Ukraine at the time. I think his name was Viktor Yanukovych. And he just said to him, this was before Zelensky's time, of course, and he said to Yanukovych, like, okay, look, I just want you to remove because Yanukovych came to him and was like, can you speed up the process of the $1 billion loan guarantee, $1 billion loan guarantee that the US was supposed to give. US aid was supposed to give.
So it was through US aid.
It was through US aid. All these foreign investments that or foreign aid that the US gives to foreign countries, even Malaysia, all come from US aid.
Okay, so maybe you can explain a bit about what US aid is.
So, well, in light of recent revelations in the past couple of weeks, US aid, to put it bluntly, if something is too dirty for the CIA to do, you give it over to US aid. Because US aid has this thing called, have you heard of China's Belt and Road Initiative?
No, I haven't.
BRI?
No.
They've been doing this all over. Okay, I'm not going to say that. But in Africa, they build roads, right?
Yeah, okay.
China, they send manpower and everything to places like the Congo, for example, and they build highways, they build proper tarmac roads and all that. free of charge at first.
Okay.
Okay, free of charge at first. And then 10 years down the road, they're like, okay, so we need to see some return on our investment. And then Congo is like, yo, we don't have no cash. We can't give you any cash. We don't have money. And then China comes back, but you got diamonds.
Yeah.
Right?
So they trade their resources.
Yeah, and you got gold. Congo, I think Congo has the biggest, sorry, not gold, cobalt.
Cobalt,
They have the
it's
biggest cobalt mines, cobalt reserves in the world.
Yeah, so basically cobalt are the material that you use in electric cars, in
The
your
lithium-ion
phones.
batteries.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, China, and what China does is basically like, all right, you can't give us cash. Why don't you nationalize your cobalt mines and you give us control?
Oh, so now it's the cobalt mines are under the control of the Chinese
control,
government.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, I mean, I say this with a smile on my face. It is disgusting. I do not like it how it's done. But it is the price of doing business in international politics.
There needs to be some trade, like fair trade.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
MRT, our MRT is not too dissimilar arrangement as well.
Oh, with
I'm not gonna say with who, with what. I'm just saying it's not a dissimilar arrangement. Okay. I'm not judging. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I personally think things shouldn't work this way, but money talks.
Yeah, for sure.
Money talks.
And speaking of US aid, another cabinet member of Trump, the famous Elon Musk, recently cut US aid.
They're shutting down US aid.
They're shutting down US aid.
But I mean, it makes sense because Trump is an isolationist, like we spoke about last week, and isolationists want to. In today's world, you cannot eradicate completely, like giving out, especially if you're the US, the strongest economic and military power. You sort of can't just go everywhere and be like Iraq and Afghanistan, you know. You can't just go and send troops everywhere you want to take oil or take resources or whatever. So the economic approach without spilling blood kind of has to be done that way.
Right.
Okay? Soft power, they call it, right? And when it comes to the US and Trump and their current policies, they want to minimize that as much as possible.
Okay.
So they want to focus on their key allies. Unfortunately, one of them is Israel. So it's a sort of catch-22 where everyone's jockeying for position. The US is jockeying for position. China is jockeying for position. Even India is coming into the fold and jockeying for position and making South Asia sort of their not say their
foothold,
land, but having a foothold in more South Asia than they did before. So, and they don't even India doesn't get along with China. You know. So even they have had a lot of animosity between them for almost 100 years now, probably even longer. So you see how, while it's disgusting, it's a necessary evil to have in this world today in order to control certain outcomes. It's unfortunate, but it's how life works.
Okay. Now we start to talk about like a bit of Malaysian politics.
Okay, sure.
So recently we celebrated Valentine's Day.
Yep.
And
Taipusam too.
Taipusam too, yeah, of course. And of course Chinese New Year. Yeah. But basically, during Valentine's Day, you know who got a love letter?
Oh, GB,
yes. Bosku.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So basically, our ex-Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak, he received a letter, basically sort of that authenticized the donation money. That validates the donation money that was from a Saudi prince. Hold on, let me just pull up his name real quick. Apparently it was from the Prince Saud Abdul Aziz Majid Al Saud, which basically he sent a letter saying, yes, I did give Najib the 2.3 billion ringgit. But what I'm thinking is, like, is Najib that poor that he needs like a 2.3 billion ringgit donation money? So
okay,
so yeah.
Okay, continue.
Okay.
Whatever you have to say, and
So-
then I'll jump in.
Okay, so basically, I'm just saying that. So, any sort of bribery or any sort of money lending can just be pardoned by saying, "Oh, it's the royals that did this." But I'm sure, this happens in Malaysia too. know?
I don't think. Okay, for one, I don't think it's that is what you're claiming, like unilaterally. I don't think they're claiming that because it's from the Saudi royals, it's legal. I don't think that is what it is. I think it's that is proving that it came from the Saudi royal, one,
Right.
but it came as a political donation for monies to be used during the election or during campaigning for the election.
Right.
So I think that's what makes it sort of legal. I'm not too well versed on political contribution laws in Malaysia, how much or how often they like Malaysian politicians can receive money from foreign sources.
Right.
I'm not too sure about that. But I can tell you why Najib did that and why he got that much.
Why? Please.
It all came to the whole 1MDB thing, okay? Why people forget this, but why was 1MDB started?
I mean, it's a sovereign wealth fund that was supposed to
Okay.
help boost the Malaysian economy.
Okay, no, that's official story. That is
So what's the
official story.
unofficial story?
What was 1MDB before it was called 1MDB?
I don't
It's
know.
called TIA,
Okay,
Terengganu Investment Authority.
right.
So Terengganu Investment Authority is a sovereign wealth fund of Terengganu,
Okay,
of the state of Terengganu. And what they did was every year they receive the state government, the state of Terengganu
Right.
receives I think it's somewhere along the $1 billion US dollars in something called Wang Ehsan from the petroleum explorers, Shell, ExxonMobil, Petronas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they get this money basically as because Terengganu gives them permission to
drill the oil.
drill offshore.
Okay.
Okay, off Terengganu shores.
Right.
And what happened was I'm not gonna get into how Najib did this because it's very in the weeds and it'll take probably 3 hours long to get through the whole thing.
Okay.
But long story short, Najib saw that TIA was already set up, was already a sovereign wealth fund, and already had the monies in there. I think at the time it had like probably 11 billion, 10 billion USD
Okay.
in there that was being managed by
Right.
TIA. And he just took TIA and federalized it and made it 1MDB, One Malaysia Development Berhad.
Okay, so my question is, why was it necessary for the Saudi prince to donate 2.3 billion to Najib personally?
Okay,
To his bank
so
account.
the 2.3 billion, like I said, we have to follow this money and that money has to be investigated and all that, and that's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So actual motives, probably 20-30 years in the future we'll only find out. I don't know if we ever. Okay, so the other thing is that the 2.3 billion was that Najib at the time of the election did not have access to the actual war chest. That war chest was about 3 billion ringgit. Okay,
The what?
the money that was to be used for
1MDB.
campaigning.
Oh,
for campaigning.
Okay.
Okay. So why Najib did the whole TIA 1MDB thing was because before he had to do that, he was denied access. Even as president of UMNO, he was denied access to all of UMNO's campaigning money, campaigning funds, the slush fund that UMNO had to go and run campaigns in every district lah, basically.
Right.
Okay. And he, as president, he had to look for a source of funds.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why he went to TIA. So that's where this guy, the Saudi royal, came in, and he like, I'll contribute some. Okay, until today we still don't know how involved the Saudi royals are with the 1MDB thing. We'll probably never know, considering how powerful they are. We'll probably never know. But what I can say for sure that 2.3 billion that matched up with the amount that was in Najib's personal bank account, the 2.3 billion ringgit, those exact matching figures, that was supposed to be used for campaigning.
Right.
And you know who were the two people that revoked Najib's access to the UMNO watches? Give a wild guess. who do you think two people that were so powerful enough, even at that time when Najib was the president of UMNO?
Was it someone in UMNO?
Yeah, technically they are still members of UMNO until today.
Until today?
One of them has passed, but yeah.
Oh,
until
one
today.
of them has passed.
Yeah. But these were the two people that restricted his access to the campaign monies. So you see, all these political parties, even PKR, MCA, MIC, everything, they all have slush funds for campaigns.
Yep.
To run campaigns. This is not just an UMNO thing. UMNO just had the most in their slush funds.
Sure. Yeah.
And who was the two people that had control over that? Even after everything.
Were they? Did they become the prime ministers?
One of them did.
So I'm assuming one of them is Muhyiddin.
No.
Oh,
It was
Ismail Sabri.
No.
Huh?
No, these people are not
Anwar.
power. No,
not Anwar.
even he's not that power. It was Tun and Daim.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
the two
that
of them.
makes sense.
They have always had control over UMNO's financials.
Right.
Even until today.
Oh, that's crazy.
Well, I'm not sure until today. But up until the point they left and joined up with Anwar lah.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. I think that's
It's
it.
the dirty part of politics.
Yeah. It's the dirty.
We just have to deal with it. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. All right. Anyways, we actually have a guest today. Jay.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So, our guest today is actually Rupa. She's an artist that has been in the industry for over 10 years, and she's also very active in
Voicing out social issues.
voicing out social issues. So, welcome to the show, Rupa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's exciting to be here.
Yes. We're glad to have you here.
Yeah,
today.
sorry for the last 20 minutes. We've just been talking a lot,
Yeah.
but you seem to be pretty occupied yourself.
You want to see?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh my
wow,
god,
that's cool, man.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
maybe you can show it to the camera. That one. Oh, that's so cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So this has been actually like one of the earliest artists I met. And this was in Langkawi. And so I was like, what are your tips to becoming a good artist? He said, make 3 sketches a day. And I'm
Right.
like, I've got no time for that. Then he was like, then what do you want to become an artist for? And it was a big, light bulb moment. So now I carry this everywhere and I
Yeah,
try
from what I hear from artists, like not just sketch artists, but if you are an artist like in music, in art,
Yeah,
any kind of art,
just creative.
you sort of have to 100% immerse yourself into it.
Yeah.
Like the dedication has to be 100 or nothing.
It's your whole life.
Yes,
lah.
in order to
Yeah,
succeed.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how's it been, being an artist over the last 10 years in Malaysia? What are some of the difficulties that you might have faced?
I think being an artist itself, like to survive 10 years, I think I'm like, wow, I
Yes.
made it here.
Yeah.
And it feels like the circle is complete now.
Yep.
So I'm back at square one. I'm back at understanding the reason why I picked up, drawing and art
Right.
to begin with. But surviving in Malaysia is definitely not the easiest.
Right.
But that being said, I think it's not easy in any country. Lah.
Right.
Yeah,
Some countries have more infrastructure that help assist the artists.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there's no red tape. And
Right.
like if you don't live in the country, you don't also know what's going on behind the scenes. Right? Yeah. So I would say then being in Malaysia, there is plenty of inspiration everywhere. There's a lot of things that we haven't had people or time to take a look at it and really dive into those topics.
Right.
So I'm actually very excited for the scene, but I do hope infrastructure-wise.
Yeah.
What are
improve.
some of the changes that you have seen, perhaps for better or worse, especially in the arts industry? And perhaps you can speak more from your experience coming from like a minority, basically.
I think one of the first things I would say is like if you take a look at Balai Seni Negara,
Right.
that's your entry point for an average person to go and look at the arts lah, right? I think there's 2 paintings by Indian people,
Right.
and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but over the years 2 people, both men, both I suspect was done in the 80s.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And this is your permanent collection lah. Of course they have your the shorter term ones,
Right.
But that's my sort of like hesitance whenever I go to Balai, is that I don't see anything that represents me, my community, or where I come from.
Right.
And so for years, I used to, I do my homework lah. I go to different art shows and I try to find like, oh, okay, what's this artist up to and what are they doing? In fact, I did like a backpacking trip out to Europe. I did my lawatan sambil belajar.
Oh,
so
cool.
I saw some of the best, world's renowned artists in search of something that could inspire me or show me my direction, right? And I came back really empty. I feel like every idea there is to be spoken about has been spoken about.
Right.
So it's a matter of technique, it's a matter of timeliness, right? But then I saw Anurendra's work, and he spoke, like there was this particular art that was about Kampung Medan.
Alright.
And I remember just staring at it for an hour plus. This was in Ilham, I think.
Oh, okay. Ilham Gallery, yeah.
Yeah. And I think for the first time, I realized, like, I don't remember what happened. I don't know politically what happened at that point. I knew it was a major issue because my family locked us up for like 2 weeks.
Right.
We had piled up sardine cans and like bread and Maggi mee and whatever we needed. And it was a strict rule that besides school, we are not to leave the house compound.
Wow.
Oh.
And so that's how I grew up. Like everything that you're talking about politically is for me not to be involved in.
Right.
Right.
Because staying silent is safety.
Right.
Okay.
Right? So now for me to be not just Indian but a woman, and then to be an artist, and then say, hey, these are some of the issues in the country that I'm not very happy with, is going against every grain that was taught to me.
Do you get called a hippie for things like that? No, just to have an honest conversation. Yeah.
Han, you wanna?
I mean, usually, like, especially for people of Rupa's background, I think they tend to be, how do you say it, like, overlooked. I think so. If someone like her were to speak out against it, and then people would be like,
would you say being overlooked or ignored? Because there's a difference. In my opinion, I feel like in like generations, at least since the 60s, why I bring up the word hippie, I don't think you are, for one. But I could see how people, especially with the traits that you just described about yourself, woman, Indian, are you a feminist?
I am.
Feminist, so people might label that a liberal. People might label that as being, even you, a hippie. Because of your liberal leanings. Like I'm a conservative myself. Well, I'm more conservative leaning than I am liberal leaning. However, I'm not like most conservatives where I feel like there's nothing in common and there's nothing we can talk about. I feel like it's like, for example, to juxtapose the current climate, I feel like it's a good thing that the progress that we've made, that we can have a unity government in our country.
Right.
That's good progress. It's not stable as we want it to be, but it is at least progress. And it's going to hurt. Progress is always going to hurt. Growing pains is always going to hurt. But at the same time, you can't have an UMNO that's just weak, or at least an opposition that's just weak and saying and just sitting there and letting the people in charge do whatever they want. You have to be strong opposition as well.
Okay, so I get what you're saying. Okay.
So the same comes between the liberal and conservative dynamic as well, from my point of view. Is that I don't enjoy talking to a stupid person, a stupid liberal. I enjoy talking to smart liberals who can challenge me on my ideas.
Right.
Similar, where I can challenge them on their ideas.
So you'd rather have like a direct...
I more than anything, I value the engagement. I value the engagement. The engagement is healthy. Regardless of how it ends up, as long as it doesn't turn violent, it's always healthy.
I do understand, and I do agree with your point. Basically, in order to have change, sometimes you need to have the uncomfortable, uncomfortable conversations.
That's why I prefaced it. But to be quite blunt, I'm not calling you a hippie. I'm just asking if in your struggles, have you had that label put onto you?
Yeah. Have you had haters before? Yeah.
I think I am where I am because I don't like labels.
Right.
So even within the arts, first question when I say I'm an artist is usually, oh, so what kind of art you do?
Right.
And if you see my collection of work, I've done body painting, I've done
Right.
work with column, I've done plasticine and
Right.
stop motion kind of stuff, I've done documentaries. So like I resist sitting inside a box.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
great.
might see me somewhere and I would be dressed like a hippie.
Right.
And it would be,
Right.
I'm probably in a festival,
Right,
I'm
right.
enjoying music. And yeah, at that point in time, I would look like a hippie
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And I'll be, I'm fine with that term, you
Yeah.
know. And I backpack a lot too.
Right.
So then the cheapest
Yeah.
hostels and very light traveler. So very hippie like, yes. But generally, no, that's not the sentiment that I get sort of like harassed with online or anything like that. I think the strongest backlash I got was in 2017, where I did a particular sort of a protest. So Taipusam, a couple of young boys, I would say, issued a thread on Facebook, and they said, so if women are wearing their saris and it's a bit too revealing, they're going to spray paint them.
These were Malay boys, I would
No,
assume.
young Indian boys.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Oh, wow.
So,
That's quite.
shift in
Yeah,
the...
yeah. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, so and here's the thing, I doubt Malay people or Chinese people get involved in Taipusam.
We even care that much to get
You know,
involved.
because they are like, guys, take up the road,
Yeah.
do whatever you need to for this
We
1
already
week.
have so many public holidays.
So this particularly happened, and I was really upset about it because, one, if you understand your history, you would know that it's colonization that made the sari sort of morph into what it is today.
Right.
So before the British were in India, there was no such thing as a blouse. Like it was just 4 meters long worth of material that was
Right.
draped across your body.
Yeah.
Right. So if you understand that, then you know culturally we were not wearing blouses.
Yeah.
So to say that Indian women now are revealing too much skin, it's kind of going against.
What has actually happened. Yeah.
The
yeah.
tradition.
Agreed.
So, but because this has happened in the last 200 years or so, there's a shift in how the Indians look at themselves and portray what is decent or indecent, you know.
Okay.
So that particular series, I approached 3 Bharatanatyam dancers, and I painted on their bodies. That went viral, and it was like, on the highlight in Malaysia Kini and like the
Right.
star,
That's cool.
and that's where I got the backlash, you know.
Right.
And it was mostly about me being a feminist. And it came from people who didn't actually read the article, and they do admit it, you know.
Usually that's the case.
Yeah.
Usually that's the case.
Yeah.
The
They see
headline
some-
readers. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then they make an assumption,
Yep.
and then or they body shame me. But generally, I think for me, art needs to provoke.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
So if you like it, then okay lah. If you hate it, also means you have a very strong reaction to it,
Yeah.
right? Means I made you stop, I made you look at it,
Yes.
rather than it's just being like a
You got the
wallpaper,
attention. Yeah.
So it may not be effective in like making you change your mind, but I made you stop and I made you. Why is this
Yes.
irking me so much, and made you pause. And I think that then I'm successful in
Right.
putting up the work.
I guess you were successful in getting people to have that conversation,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And I think we need more of that actually, because especially, I mean, for the Indian communities, not just artists, but Indian Malaysians in general, they do face this stigma, I guess, a lot of stigma regarding like, the way they're brought up, their social choices, and I know this is not what I believe, but Indians were to order Grab at night, then like the Grab drivers would assume that they're drunk, and then they would cancel the ride because they didn't want to take an.
I have actually heard from a lot of people in the Indian community that they do not like that stereotype, the drunkenness
The
part
being
of
drunken,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
because a lot of them don't drink. A lot of them don't drink,
Mhm.
you know, and they don't want to be associated with that kind of behavior. So, and I think, especially in 2025, you can't say that about just Indians.
Oh yeah.
Malays and Chinese are out there too. Man.
Have you been to track?
Exactly.
I heard
That's
that
my
in
whole
one of your
point.
shows.
That's my whole point. I ain't never been there. I ain't never been to track for that purpose, and I know.
Dude, you go to
And
track.
I know what's going on there.
You go
Like,
to
come on,
track
man.
now, it's like Shah Alam, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Shala with horns, right? Yeah. That's what you call it.
So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, how do we as Malaysians try to navigate around that? You know?
I think it's a complex question, lah.
Yeah. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
I mean, stereotypes don't exist without some truth to it. Hence, it becomes
Absolutely
a stereotype,
agree. Yeah.
right? And then again, I'll look at the history of why there's this narrative of Indians being the drunks. So a lot of the Indian population, a huge chunk of them, came through the British, bringing them through to work in rubber plantations,
Yeah.
right? So, and how the British had control over these communities is to isolate them. So they were not living by the roads; they were living 2-3 kilometers or 5
In the
kilometers
jungles.
in
Yeah.
the jungle. So they had no access to come out, no bikes or whatever to come out of the space. So what the British
Essentially, slaves. Essentially, yeah.
indentured laborers.
Indentured
That's what
labour, yeah.
they call them.
For
It's
sure.
just a slight upgrade from what happened to the black community,
Yes.
right? So by isolating them, what they also did is that they built schools and temples and everything they would essentially need within that
To
compound.
maintain
Yeah,
their culture.
So that they don't leave.
Yep.
And so then toddy or samsu, they call it, was also brewed and sort of
This is like our local moonshine, right? Toddy.
moonshine.
It's like a alcoholic
Homebrewed
beverage.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay,
basically,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So,
Like tua.
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I think they have similar
Similar
tastes.
taste.
Right.
Yeah. So rice wine and stuff like that. So so they were made to drink, and they it was made so cheap that it became a coping mechanism. Right. And so this is 100 years ago. And you have activists even back then who were championing so that these laborers don't drink. But, if you're going through that kind of a hardship and you had
Look for any
something
kind of out. Yeah.
to forget the pain for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah,
for a
yeah,
few
yeah.
hours, right? And so that's left with that community with that kind of a residue. So in arts, in sort of like my process of working through certain topics, I've also learned that you can't just try to fix the problem on the surface. You really have to dig down into the roots and understand why it's there to begin with, right? You have to air that dirty laundry out, and that's the part most people don't like to do. And then you maybe find like, oh, hey, here's a possible way I could mend this relationship, And so I feel like, possibly the middle class maybe are not drinking the same way they used to anymore, or it's a more like a social thing where I drink wine now, at home and whatever not. But there's a lot of silence that comes with it, And then if you see another community, maybe on the social class, they're a bit lower, and there's still a lot of like anger and like loudness that
Resentment.
comes when they're drunk.
Yep.
Going back to your statement earlier your question earlier about whether the community is ignored, I think the community is invisible, So whenever they get a choice to make some noise, like, do I exist here?
Yeah.
And they want a reaction. They want the drama because that then acknowledges in this
Being
mad
recognized.
subconscious way to say, I exist, I'm here,
Yeah.
you're looking at me, you're talking to me, you're reacting to me, and then I must be here, so they're no longer insular within the community. So we are unpacking
So
centuries.
it's essentially like the reward system is different, but the mechanism of control is still sort of the same,
And
which is screwed up.
yeah,
This is really screwed up.
so I was in Q's archive in London last year, and I was looking through some of the documents. So I was trying to find, certain things I could like make commentary on, but how the British wrote about the Indian labourers to how the media is talking about the Indian community now, word for word has
Very similar.
changed.
Oh wow.
So that means this is a
And it's
long-
like 100 years apart, dude.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And so, I'm thinking, where did we go wrong? Right? Like, it's easy to want to try to blame something on someone lah, right? But if we shift, let's say the conversation is not about blaming, but it's about like, why didn't a change happen? Is it the control of media? Or is it that the people who were asking for change could not keep up with the times?
Right.
Did they just burn out and give up?
Right.
Back then, India was really strong in writing support letters whenever a Malaysian Indian was going through some issues.
Right.
And now you
But
don't
now- yeah.
see them getting
what
involved.
happened last year? That lady that fell into that sinkhole. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And now nobody's talking about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like that went on for like a week.
Yeah.
After that, nothing.
Yeah.
And we still don't know what happened to her.
Yeah,
Until
yeah.
today.
They still can't find her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That is nuts.
Yeah.
okay. So then, what is the right way for us to address this without being called hippies or without being called like, oh, these guys, whatever it is they call, I'm sure you've heard a lot of names.
See, that's the thing. I think you're on a good point. There's a good question, but what comes with, especially you, because you're an artist, is that art has always been on the fringes. Be it stand-up comedy, man. Stand-up comedy is always on the fringes.
Yeah, yeah.
Any kind of art to be impactful has to be on the fringes. Like she said, like Rupa said, it has to be provoking. It has to provoke you. It has to make you stop and be like, "Fuck, I hate that. Fuck, I love that." But it has to inspire one of those. Same thing like we now look back on history as if they are geniuses, but at the same time, when they were alive, the Renaissance masters, they were on the fringes.
Right.
They were being prosecuted by the church until they themselves were commissioned by the church and were like, okay, you have to make religious art, and now you can be accepted.
Oh, okay.
That's what happened to Da Vinci. Da Vinci, he was not just an artist, he was an inventor, he was a writer, he was an all-around intelligent man. Maybe one of the most intelligent people that have ever existed in the world. But
Even
when he
he-
was alive, he was being pushed aside by the church until he started doing religious art. Galileo, the guy who found out that the sun, the earth moved around the sun and not the sun moved around the earth, right? The sun was the center of the solar system. He was put on house arrest until he died.
Oh, really?
Do you know that? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was put on house arrest until he died for that statement. Yeah. So it was nuts. They were burning his book. He had to write books in papyrus so that people who were caught with his books could just throw them in water and dissolve. That was how on the fringes art has always been. And even in 2025, Rupa's right. It has to be that way. Unfortunately. Whatever labels that come, and I think your way of handling it is the best. Like, screw labels. I don't have to deal with labels. But that's the best way to deal with it. Like, I do my thing, and maybe 100, 150 years, 200 years down the road, then only I'll be recognized. Is the deep sacrifice of an artist, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that means that we have to be provocative in order to change the narrative. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's always a given, but you cannot expect that change to happen overnight.
Yeah.
That's my
Absolutely.
point.
Yeah. I feel like at this point I can't expect change at all.
In your lifetime,
I don't know.
Because you haven't seen many.
I just have to take it as a sense of duty Like, you know, everybody has like, oh, this is the thing that you're born with, or this is what you're supposed to do. You know, I feel like I've had a taste of it. Like, I don't know if this is exactly it, but I know I'm close. And so I just got to keep doing it, right? I feel conversations like this are important, right? Because everyone sort of like, they shy away from speaking about like localized issues that, you know, is racial or religious, right?
Okay, so basically, if you look at the current news stories now, like a lot of Malaysians, we are boycotting like Israeli products because of all the things that happened in Gaza, you know what I mean? But we overlook the fact that some of the minorities here also face, maybe not to the extent of like being bombed and stuff like that, but some of the minorities here do face a lot of challenges, like not having their voice heard, or being isolated to into an area and stuff like that, being stigmatized by the stereotypes. You know what I mean? So like I feel like a lot of Malaysians, instead, not, I mean, like, it's great that we are like doing all this to support the Palestinians, but at the same time, I think we need to look inside our country too and notice like there are some similarities to what's happening in Gaza that are happening to the minorities here.
And there's more that can be done for locally.
Yeah. So how do we like, okay, so like we talked about like how art and how being provocative can sort of challenge that. But my question is like, how much more provocative can we be? You know what I mean?
I think there's space to be provocative, but there's also space to like sit down and makan together and laugh, you know, because if I see you often, and you know, first I'm like, oh, maybe we don't like the same food because you want it to be halal and I want it to be vegetarian, and you know, and we have this disparity, you know. But at some point they'll be like, I keep seeing this guy, maybe
we can share an ice cream, you know.
Why not? And just talk about stuff. And I think when you start to familiarize someone, you start to humanize them because they are no longer a headline, you know. And I think we also have to stop people like, you know, sometimes we like, hey, I almost got robbed the other day. It's like, hey, Indian you know, let's stop that. And I think even in stand-up comedy also, like, it's easy to do the racial stereotype jokes. It's easy to do that. But if you bypass that and do something funny that's not a racial stereotype, you know, then I'm like, so, you know, sometimes you're laughing and then you don't realize I'm laughing because like I do that. And then you go back and you think about it, and that's powerful, you know. I think humor is like one of the best ways to create reform internally. But we need more platforms, and we need more people, and we need more people to be brave to be able to like take on these topics. And have communities behind them to support them. Like, my family doesn't support me, you know. They don't. They ignore. Like, I could send them the link to this podcast later and they'd be like, good job. That's it. That's all the acknowledgement I'm going to get from them. But like, there's this group of people who think that my work is important, and because I'm speaking up, a few years down the road, I see them speaking up too. And I think we just got to encourage voices like that. And you know, and allow room for mistakes lah. Like, you know, we are not switched on to say the right thing.
We're all humans after all.
I'm about to tell you a joke. It might be a mistake, but it's a racial joke that I've tried to construct over the last few weeks. And okay, so basically, I used to use dating apps, and you know how on dating apps they have prompts, you know, especially for their race, religion and stuff. But I appreciate it if someone doesn't use their prompts, especially for their race. You know what I mean? So if someone looks Indian, I'll drop a pickup line like, hey girl, are you Indian? Because damn, you're not just the snack, you're Tamil. So I had to like find the right line, you know, because
Doris like that. Doris like that for sure, dude.
Yeah, so I had to like properly construct that joke because I do wanna like appreciate like how Indian people do speak Tamil and stuff like that, but without me being overly racist, because I'm in the stand-up scene. So I know a lot of comedians that would tell racist jokes, and I'm like it's such an easy thing to do, like making racist jokes, but
like making Trump jokes in 2014. Like.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
So
I feel like if you want to make a racial joke, it has to be educated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think most people, that's the root cause of the problems that we have. It's the either miseducation or the lack of exposure. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but what do you think about my joke?
I think the pronunciation at the end, like, sharpen that a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're there. But, on that direction of like, kind of joke that would be like,
Because it's not really a racist joke,
Okay, okay.
Yeah. You're just pointing out the racial elements in it. But it's not like you're being racist with the joke. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's good. It's good.
okay, thank you.
Just make sure your current girlfriend doesn't see you use that line no more.
No.
Ada disclaimers.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have today, unfortunately. But
that was a really engaging
yes,
conversation, and I think we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, I think we can talk more.
If you could make time in the future.
Yeah. It's really nice to be here.
I would honestly say so far, I would say you are the most engaging guest we've ever had. At least for me. You know, I'm not really
your other guests are gonna get like
I'm not really
apa ni?
I'm not really an environmentalist, so I don't do, but I'm not a social issues guy either, but like all that's him. He's a liberal in this dynamic, But when he puts someone like you in front of me, and I get to peel back the layers and figure out who you are for myself, it's a very interesting conversation, and I would love to have more conversations with you. I think it'd be great.
Thank you so much for joining us
today,
today, Rupa.
Thank you for having me.
For sure.
Thank you guys for watching the show. Feel free to subscribe, watch, like and subscribe basically. Anything else you want to say, BJ, before?
Comment.
Yeah, comment.
Whatever you have to say about any of us, about Rupa, comment. She has thick skin, I have thick skin. Han may be slightly thinner. It's okay. Dude. Show up to his comedy shows. He'll love it. Tell him BJ sent you. He'll love it.
So do support Rupa on her Instagram.
Yes.
Warna Rupa, but you can also find a lot of my previous work on my website, skinandsoul.art. So like I write about whatever we just spoke about, and also a lot of my art is over there, so that'd be great if you go and check that out.
That's great.
So thank you again, Rupa, for coming to the show, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
Ciao.
Let's go.